Hey guys, welcome back. I'm Logan Rankin and I educate people on systems, leadership, and achieving real estate success. So I recently just got back from my offsite with the directors and the president of my property management company. Do this every single year in January. I just think it's super important to get out of your business and truly focus on working on your business. And it just reminded me, and something I wanted to share today to help out other entrepreneurs, is what do I look for in great leadership? And in this offsite, it wasn't just about planning 2024, right? Or reflecting on 2023, because I think obviously most companies do that, and setting objectives. You know, a big part of this was developmental activities for the leadership team. What can I do to make my leadership team overall better at key leadership skills or abilities? Because the better they are at those, the easier accomplishing your objectives would be as well too. I firmly believe that leadership is one of those things that really transcends a company, allows it to be able to scale, allows systems to be able to prosper, and creates just a ton of connectability throughout your company. So for me, before I get into these 5 skills, there is a ticket. There is something that I do not develop. There is something that I do not take time and allow in my company. And I consider this the ticket. You have to have this ticket to be even allowed into my 5 leadership skills or ability that I really focus on. And that is integrity and character. I believe that is something you buy during the interview process, and it is not something you teach. If somebody is not accountable, doesn't have high character, doesn't have integrity or a moral compass, I don't care about any of the rest of the leadership skills. I don't care if you're the best salesman, the best at this in leadership or that. For me, it's like, nope, this person's not accountable. They don't trace something that goes wrong all the way back to themselves, or they don't have the integrity to be able to do it. If you want to join my company or last at my company, this is the biggest emphasis I have before I even look at any other skills or abilities. The number one thing that I look for in when I'm hiring a leader, or even the current leaders that are at my company, is simply, are they a great boss? Like, I believe that people work for their boss more than they work for the company. So I put a ton of emphasis, does this person care? Does he want to be a great boss for his team, right? Does he give his team enough autonomy and responsibility to be great? Or does he micromanage and try to take all the credit? I think a great boss shows that they truly care. They take time to develop the relationship. They take time to build trust. And they're very honest and transparent about challenging and engaging their team. This is something that I look for based on the questions that I ask in interviews, but it's also something that when we have leaders in our company that I look for by asking the team members who they report to. And I'll be honest, once you start looking for it, you can see it right away. You can see the team members that are very engaged and very excited and even challenged about their job, and it has nothing to do about their job responsibilities at the company itself. It has everything to do with the boss that reports to them. And in the beginning, maybe this takes a lot of time, but I would actually tell you that the best leaders that I've seen focused on building a great team and being a great boss have built that relationship so strong that they can actually lead quicker, because they can just cut through all the BS and they can just go and get to the root cause of how to re-engage or challenge their team. They can see things in their team that maybe others couldn't because they've developed that relationship. So that's the number one thing I look for in leaders at my company. So that's number one. Number 2, I look for leaders that are transparent and focused on having the ability to challenge the people on their team. Or another word for this is the ability to manage talent. That transparency around this second skill is really important. Let me describe a little bit of what that means. So first, if you are a great boss and you do know your team, you have to have now the ability to be able to manage that talent. And what that means is that you're able to now have transparent conversations when somebody is not doing well, and obviously when they are doing well too. And I will tell you, in my company, this is something we work really hard at. Because I've seen a lot of, especially younger leaders, but even leaders that have been in role for a while, they do not want to give a tough message, but it doesn't have to be tough, guys. It needs to be honest, right? If you develop the relationship with somebody, there's nothing tough about it. If you truly care about the people that work on your team, then you have to slow down and you have to quickly deliver open and honest feedback about what they need to do better at their job. Because if your team doesn't know where they stand, it's very hard for them to perform at the highest levels. So managing talent is about very quickly recognizing your team when they do good, but really being open, clear, concise even, as quick as possible when they're not doing great. Going over with them exactly what is wrong, what they need to improve on, and how to be great in the moment versus beating around the bush, versus sandwiching that feedback. These conversations are not easy to have, but when done the right way, will exponentially increase the overall results of your company, but they'll also keep your team. I would argue that some of the best leaders out there are the most transparent. They give the most candor. They're not hiding behind objectives. They say what they mean, and the reason they're able to achieve such great results and keep such great teams is because the teams respect that. The teams know where they stand. Teams feel confident when they're doing a good job, and they feel confident if they're not doing a good job that their boss cares enough about them to deliver the right kind of message, and then obviously help them perform. So we look for the ability to manage talent as the second big leadership skill when I'm hiring, but also as I'm developing the leaders on my team. So the third thing I look for in my leaders, both when I'm hiring, but again, to develop this skill over and over again, is the ability to be able to communicate effectively. And there's different parts of communicating effectively that I think are very important. One of the biggest ones is, can you take a complex thing, right? A complex system maybe, or a complex idea, a vision even, and then think about how to break it down and make it very simple. This is something that I work really hard at. It's like, if I have this vision or this idea, how do I break this complex thing down in the simplest terms possible? Because the more simple I can make it, even comparing it to different analogies, then everybody in the company can understand it, right? And the second thing around communicating effectively is being concise enough and also understanding your audience. There might be something that I communicate a little differently with the president of my company than I do maybe a team member in my company, depending on where they are. Understanding your audience and how to communicate effectively is very, very important. I think at this point in my juncture of leadership, team members should mostly hear from me from a praise standpoint, from a recognition standpoint. It would be a little weird for me to be able to, coach somebody effectively when it comes to communication. That's more of my job with the president of the company. So just knowing your audience and how to communicate and where to communicate is, I think, a very big part of leadership. We have different examples within our company. One of the things that we do very well is turns. And turns is actually very complex, especially because we can fully rehab a unit from top to bottom, right? All new floors, walls, paint, cabinets, vanities, toilets, etc. in 72 hours, right? 3 days. It's a very complex process with a lot of people getting in and out 24/7. But you can make that very simple for everybody to understand, even a leasing agent that's selling the unit or a rental tech that's actually doing the unit. When you focus on, we just rehab units like a car wash. Every single unit, either a platinum package, a gold package, an elite package, or a silver package. And each one of those packages have the exact same things. And each rental tech does the exact same thing too. So by utilizing a car wash as a simple example of how we are able to rehab units, you can make it a lot simpler for somebody to wrap their head around, right? How quickly we want to get in and clean the car or rehab the unit. So communicating effectively is a very important skill, especially as you scale a company, because you're going to have a lot of new team members and processes to roll out. Leadership skill number 4, and we worked on this a lot actually in my offsite, is the ability to be able to solve problems. Better said, sometimes it's just taking the time to be able to solve problems. One thing that always hits hard for me, and I see a lot of leaders struggle with, a problem comes to their plate, right? As soon as the problem comes to their plate, they treat it urgently. And I would tell you, rarely are the things that you perceive to be urgent actually urgent. The real urgent things are the ones that are not urgent at all. Let me give you an example. If a problem occurs, right, you think you got to solve that problem right away. But instead, if you took the time and slowed down and thought about why did that problem exist in the first place? Is it part of a system that is broken? And if I would have took the time 2 weeks ago, right? To do some deep work and to solve that problem when I had the time to strategize and think through this process. Would this thing that I appear to be urgent at all or even exist? So those things that you think is urgent that you just got to solve right away, those aren't the urgent things, guys. It's the time that you really take to be able to solve problems. A lot of leaders also think that it's their job to be able to solve problems for the people that bring it to them. But they have to slow down for a second and think about, number one, is this really my responsibility? Or should I just ask a simple question like, well, what would you do in this situation, right? By being able to turn that problem back on the person that gave it to you, hearing out what they have to say, and then giving them confidence to be able to solve it themselves the next time. It's not just your ability to solve problems, it's your ability to be able to solve the right problems. Because just fixing problems is not great leadership, but how you fix the problems. Where you spend your time. Are you building the system or are you treating everything that's urgent? I think that's a really, really hard skill to learn because you're really slowing yourself down to speed yourself up. Some leaders think they're doing a lot and they're executing. They're solving problems by crossing off those checklists. That's not the kind of leader I need in my company or I even want in my company. I want the type of leader that is going to take the time to think about why that problem exists and landed on their desk in the first place and how to solve the root cause so that it never lands on that desk again. And that can be done by either fixing the process of why it occurred or developing the person so that they can handle it when it comes up again. All right, last one. And these are in no particular order. This one might be my favorite though. This is your competitive greatness. Do you have the drive for results each and every single day? Are you proud but never satisfied, right? Are you competitive and always looking at how to get an edge? Those are the traits, like this competitive greatness, that I want in every single leader I have, every single team member I have. And you either have it or you don't. You're either constantly striving to be better and improve, or you're not. And I think the very best leaders that I've ever been around have this competitive greatness about them, where no matter how well they did that day or that week, they're always searching to become better. First for themselves, but then for their teams, and then for the results. If the results are 98% and it's never been achieved, I promise you they're thinking about how to go to 98.5 and then 99. Even when they hit 100, what is next? What can we do differently? Now, this is a pretty easy leadership trait to describe, number 5 here, but I would tell you that not everybody has it, and there's different intensity levels. There's people that kind of want to be great, and then there's level 10, the competitive greatness, the want to win the right way, and constantly improve day after day, week after week. Those are leaders that can actually just make your entire company. Everything about scaling and leadership, they also drive that competitive greatness among everybody on their team. So those are the 5 leadership traits that I look for, that I develop. Everybody in my company has those. How do we continue to bring those out even greater? For them, but also for the people on their team, right? Because the cool thing about scaling is that you might have a team member in your team that's going to be a leader one day. They want to know the 5 leadership things that we're looking for that we're really challenging to be able to grow. And the exciting part is some of these can be strengths and some of these can be opportunities. My perspective is you want to make leaders soar with their strengths and make sure that their opportunities are not derailers. So hopefully that was helpful for you. If you want to adopt some of these leadership skills or the things that I look for, great. But even if you don't like those, or you have a different set of skills that you think will help scale your company even better, that's fine. Just write them down and know them. Stick to them. I don't do a single interview without refreshing myself on these are the 5 things that I think are going to help my company and my team the most when it comes to being a leader. And I still interview every single person that becomes a leader in my companies.